Sonia had spent 7 years building Jake's career, believing that she and her husband were a team, that his success was also hers. She never complained about late nights spent researching markets, drafting business plans, or maintaining relationships with key clients. But over time, she realized that Jake rarely acknowledged her efforts. In front of others, he took full credit for every achievement, while Sonia remained in the shadows, unrecognized. Still, she reassured herself, thinking that maybe he just forgot to mention her contributions. Her birthday should have been a special day. Not a single text, not a single call. Jake didn't even mention it when he left the house in the morning. At first, she tried to comfort herself, thinking that maybe they were planning a surprise for the evening. But as night fell, she slowly realized that there was no surprise waiting for her at all. Not wanting to drown in disappointment, Sonia took herself out for dinner. She chose a quiet restaurant where she could reflect on her marriage. Throughout the meal, she couldn't stop wondering, do I even matter to them? If I disappeared one day, would they even notice? However, the real pain came when she drove back home that evening. Her heart tightened as she saw that Jake and his family had thrown a huge party. Not to celebrate her birthday, but to celebrate Jake's success. Everyone raised their glasses, praising Jake as a genius. But what hurt Sonia the most was the large banner hanging above the fireplace. Congratulations, Jake, on winning the Miller contract. The Miller contract. The very project she had poured countless hours into, staying up late, ensuring every figure and market analysis was flawless. She recalled the nights Jake was out golfing with his friends while she tirelessly worked. And now with the deal secured, she had been completely erased from this picture of success. At that moment, Sonia realized that it wasn't just her birthday that had been forgotten. She had been forgotten in this marriage all along. Even when she walked in, the only person who noticed was Sophia, Jake's sister, who looked at her in surprise and said, "Oh, you're here too?" As if she didn't belong. As if she were an uninvited guest. Jake turned around and instead of guilt or surprise, he simply said, "You're home early." As if she had no real reason to be here, in her own house. And when she mentioned her birthday, Emerson, her mother-in-law, gave a fake smile and said, "Oh, today's your birthday? Jake, say something." But Jake simply lifted his glass and said, "Come on, don't make a big deal out of it. You're here now, so have a drink." At that moment, Sonia realized that this was no longer her marriage. She turned and walked upstairs without another word. And while the laughter continued downstairs, Sonia began packing her bags, taking with her not just her clothes, but the proof of everything she had contributed to Dunn Consulting's success. Before leaving, she left a simple note on the kitchen counter. "You forgot my birthday. I won't let you forget me." The decision to leave and take back what's hers. She didn't need to argue with Jake, nor did she need to confront Emerson or Sophia at the party. They had spoken the truth through their actions. Not a single person in that house valued her presence, and that was reason enough for her to disappear. But not as a defeated woman. She would leave as a strategist preparing her next move. It was time to stop. It was time to take back what belonged to her. She dragged her suitcase across the floor. Each item she folded, each document she packed, was a part of a life she had built for someone else, but now, it would be hers. From the desk drawer, she pulled out a hard drive containing all the business plans, market reports, client lists, and every project she had worked on over the years. She knew Jake had never actually read these documents. She opened her laptop and checked her work emails. The contracts, the important data, everything had been prepared by her. Jake might have been the face of the company, but Sonia was the one who truly ran the business. Material things could be replaced, but self-respect could not. Her phone buzzed. A message from her best friend, Zuriel. "Happy birthday! How's your day?" Sonia stared at the screen for a long moment. Everyone had forgotten her birthday, except for one person. The only one who truly cared. She quickly typed back, "Can I stay with you for a while?" The reply came instantly. "Of course. Are you okay?" For the first time that day, Sonia smiled, and that was all she needed for now. She pulled her suitcase behind her, grabbed her bag and laptop, and walked downstairs. One last glance at the scene in front of her. Jake raising his glass with his mother and sister, completely unaware that the woman who had helped build his success was walking out of his life. No one stopped her. No one noticed. She walked straight to the door, leaving behind 7 years of sacrifice and empty promises. Just before stepping out, she wrote just one line: "You forgot my birthday. I won't let you forget me." She placed it in the center of the table, where Jake would surely see it once the party was over. The house she once thought was her home, but in reality it had never truly been hers. But that was okay, because from now on, she would build a life where she truly belonged. The rise and the brilliant revenge plan. Sonia left Jake's house that night, not in panic or despair, but with a carefully laid out plan strong enough to make the entire Dunn family realize they had lost the most valuable thing they had. At Zuriel's apartment, she placed her laptop on the table and opened a special folder, the one containing everything that had helped Dunn Consulting grow into the powerhouse it was today. Contracts, strategies, client lists, market analyses, everything was there. Sonia wasn't stealing anything. These were documents she had created from the very beginning. Zuriel sat down beside her, sipping her coffee. "So what's the plan?" Sonia smirked and opened a pending email. The recipient, Theo Lawson, an old rival of Jake's, someone who had almost beaten him in the consulting industry. In the past, Jake had stolen a major client from Theo using insider information that Sonia had gathered. But this time, she was the one holding the winning card. The email was simple but sharp. "Theo, I think it's time we discuss a new opportunity. I have something you've always wanted, and I'm ready to bring it to someone who truly appreciates it. Let's meet at 9 a.m. tomorrow." Sonia. She hit send and closed her laptop, feeling an adrenaline rush surge through her veins. She was no longer the overlooked wife in Jake's shadow. Now, she was a real competitor. Stepping out of the shadows. The next morning, as she walked into Theo's office, she could sense the excitement in the air. Theo stood up to shake her hand, his expression intrigued. "Sonia Dunn," he said, folding his arms. "I never thought I'd see this day." "Not Dunn anymore," she corrected. "Just Sonia." She took a seat and opened her laptop, laying out everything she had built for Dunn Consulting, every strategy, every contract, every key client. Theo studied the data intently, nodding as he realized the sheer amount of work she had done in silence. "So," he said once she finished, "what do you want?" Sonia leaned back in her chair, more confident than ever. "I want to build an empire. But this time under my name, not someone else's." Theo smiled and extended his hand. "Deal." They shook hands, and at that moment, Sonia officially stepped out of Jake's shadow. The unraveling of Dunn Consulting piece by piece, Sonia's plan fell into place. She recruited Lauren, her former assistant, someone who had seen firsthand what really went on inside Dunn Consulting. Lauren immediately agreed. "I've been waiting for this day," she said. Meanwhile, Jake began to sense something was wrong. One by one, Dunn Consulting's clients started shifting their business to a new firm, one that used the same successful methods but had a stronger team and a CEO who actually understood the industry. Then, exactly 1 week after Sonia left, Jake received. "We have reviewed our partnership and found that your current strategies no longer align with our vision. As a result, we have decided to move forward with a new consulting partner. Miller Industries." Jake's face turned pale. Miller Industries was Dunn Consulting's biggest client, and losing them could mean the collapse of his entire company. He rushed to his office, searching for all the documents related to the Miller project. But all he found was an empty folder. Nothing was there. All the data, strategies, research, everything was gone. His phone rang. It was Emerson, his mother, yelling in a panic. "What is happening? Everything is falling apart. Clients are leaving us. What did Sonia do?" Jake gripped his phone tightly, but deep inside, a terrifying realization crept in. He had always taken Sonia for granted. But now, for the first time, he saw the ugly truth. Dunn Consulting's success had never been his. It had always been hers. The final blow. Across the city, in a sleek office, Sonia stood by a floor-to-ceiling window, sipping coffee. Lauren walked in, holding a document. "Miller just signed with us." Sonia smiled. "Perfect." Lauren hesitated before adding, "Jake is trying to reach you. He says he wants to talk." Sonia placed her coffee down, crossing her arms. "Tell him I'm busy. I have an empire to build." Dunn Consulting's collapse. When the foundation crumbles. Sonia didn't need to do much for Dunn Consulting to fall. She only needed to leave. She had always known the company couldn't survive without her. A few days after her departure, everything began to fall apart. But when emails from Miller Industries started coming in, asking for project updates, panic set in. Jake had none of the information they were requesting. All of the reports, market research, and strategies had been Sonia's work. He tried to improvise, but the executives at Miller quickly realized that he didn't understand the very plans he had presented to them. They started asking questions. Jake, can you elaborate on the expansion strategy for Q2? Can you provide details on the competitive analysis? Can Sonia join the next meeting? We need to confirm some figures. Jake scrambled, dodging their questions. He even lied, saying that Sonia was sick. But the truth came out quickly. Sonia was no longer with Dunn Consulting. One by one, clients started leaving. They didn't want to work with a company where the real strategist was gone. Miller Industries was the first to cut ties. Then 3 more major clients followed, moving their contracts to Sonia's new firm. Emerson tried desperately to salvage the situation, but it only made things worse. She even called Sonia, but her calls went unanswered. In desperation, she approached Lauren, Sonia's former assistant, and tried to bribe her into stealing documents from Sonia's company. But instead of complying, Lauren emailed Sonia. Emerson is panicking. They've completely lost control. Sonia just smiled. They had thought they could control her forever. Now, they were the ones lost and powerless. Dunn Consulting on the brink of bankruptcy. Jake tried everything to save his company, but within a month, Dunn Consulting lost nearly 60% of its value. Key employees, the ones who knew that Sonia had always been the real leader, started quitting, looking for better opportunities elsewhere. The media caught on quickly. Dunn Consulting loses major clients, signs of collapse. CEO Jake Dunn faces unprecedented crisis. Jake had no choice but to beg Sonia to come back. He sent emails, messages, even showed up at her office, but she refused to see him. The last time he tried calling her, he received a single text in response. Jake, you always said you did everything on your own, so prove it. For the first time in his life, Jake realized the truth. He had thought of himself as a genius. But now, he saw what he really was, a man who had only succeeded because Sonia had been behind him all along. Emerson and the final fall. While Jake struggled to keep the company afloat, Emerson faced the consequences of her own actions. A financial investigation was launched, exposing the tax fraud and loopholes she had used to keep the company running. That day, Sonia received a text from Sophia. Mom is about to be sued for financial fraud. Jake is desperate. Please help us. Sonia read the message and deleted it. Emerson had always treated her like a mere accessory in Jake's life. But now, she had to face the truth. She had bet on the wrong person. A few days later, the news spread. Emerson Dunn indicted for financial fraud, Dunn Consulting on the verge of collapse. The entire Dunn family was falling apart in front of the public eye. Sonia, the rise of a new empire. Meanwhile, Sonia's company was thriving like never before. She had secured the Miller Industries contract, attracted a wave of new clients, and officially become a powerful force in the business world. One morning, as she walked into her office, Lauren grinned and held up an iPad. Jake just put Dunn Consulting up for sale. Sonia raised an eyebrow. They've run out of options. She felt no guilt, no pity, only satisfaction. She hadn't destroyed Dunn Consulting. They had collapsed on their own when she was no longer there to hold them up. Before heading into her next meeting, she sent Sophia a single text. I didn't need to take revenge. You did it to yourselves. And then she moved forward, leaving the past behind. Regret, but it was too late. Dunn Consulting had lost Miller Industries, lost its top clients, lost its best employees, but above all, it had lost Sonia. Jake had once believed he didn't need her. He had convinced himself that Dunn Consulting's success was his own doing, that Sonia was merely a supporting figure. But now, with her gone, he realized he had nothing but an empty shell. Jake tried to reach her. He called, texted, and emailed. No response. Desperate, he went to her company in person. But when he arrived, he saw something that made his stomach drop. Sonia's new office was grander, sleeker, and busier than Dunn Consulting had ever been. Lauren, Sonia's former assistant, now the chief operating officer of her new company, stood at the entrance, arms crossed. Jake, She said his name with little emotion. I need to see Sonia, he said, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. Lauren sighed. Do you really think she wants to see you? Jake swallowed. I just need to talk. Please. Lauren hesitated, then finally said, fine, but don't expect forgiveness. The final meeting. When Jake walked into the office, Sonia sat behind her desk, calm, poised, and completely in control. She was no longer the woman who had once stood in his shadow. She was now a powerful CEO in her own right. You have 5 minutes, she said, her voice void of emotion. Jake swallowed hard. Sonia? No, she cut him off. Don't apologize. Don't tell me you regret it. You had 7 years to see my worth and you never did. Jake dropped his gaze. I know, but Sonia, the company is collapsing. She raised an eyebrow. I know. His shoulders sagged. Come back. Not as my wife, but as a partner. We can fix this together. Sonia laughed, not out of amusement but in mockery. Come back? For what? She scoffed. So you can take credit for my work again? So your mother and sister can treat me like a stranger? So you can forget my birthday again? Jake flinched. He had no excuse for what he had done. Sonia leaned forward, her voice like ice. No, I'm not coming back. You want to know the truth, Jake? That company was never yours. That success was never yours. It was always mine. Jake shook his head, desperate to hold on to something. We were a team, Sonia, she smiled, a small, knowing smile. No, Jake, we were never a team. I was the one making all the moves, but I let you take center stage. Now, I don't need you anymore. Something inside Jake cracked. He had lost her, truly lost her. He took a deep breath and stood up. I understand. Sonia nodded. Good. As he turned to leave, she spoke one last time. Jake. He stopped. She looked him dead in the eye, her voice steady and final. You should consider yourself lucky, because the only thing I took from you was what was already mine. Jake didn't say another word. He walked out, stepped into the elevator, and as the doors closed, he knew his life would never be the same again. The fall of Dunn Consulting. Less than a month later, Dunn Consulting officially went bankrupt. Jake's mother, Emerson, was formally charged with financial fraud. She was forced to sell off her personal assets to cover debts, but it wasn't enough to save the company. Sophia, Jake's sister, fell into financial ruin after borrowing too much money to invest in Dunn Consulting. And Jake, once a proud CEO, was now a shadow of the man he used to be. Meanwhile, Sonia's company continued to thrive, expanding into international markets. One day, Jake received a text from Sophia. Mom has lost everything. So have I. Jake, you have to do something. Jake didn't reply, because now he knew there was nothing left to do. Sonia had won. Sonia, the woman they could no longer overlook. At a press conference, a journalist asked Sonia about the downfall of Dunn Consulting. She simply replied, I didn't destroy that company, they did it to themselves when they underestimated me. The world could no longer ignore her. Sonia's victory, from invisible to unstoppable. 6 months after leaving Dunn Consulting, Sonia stood in her luxurious executive office. She was no longer the forgotten wife, no longer the invisible figure behind someone else's success. She was now a self-made business mogul, running a company she built from the ground up. Her phone buzzed, a message from Lauren. Congratulations, the investment board just approved a $100 million funding package for our global expansion. We did it. Sonia smiled. She hadn't just surpassed Dunn Consulting, she had completely left them behind. Dunn Consulting collapses. And a too-late apology. In stark contrast to Sonia's success, Dunn Consulting officially filed for bankruptcy. The media reported the downfall in waves. Dunn Consulting goes under, what led to the collapse. From CEO to ruin, Jake Dunn's downfall. Financial fraud charges against Emerson Dunn, the end of a dynasty. Sonia wasn't surprised. She had always known that she wasn't the one who destroyed Jake's company. They had done it to themselves when they underestimated her. But what did surprise her was the text she received from Sophia, Jake's sister. Sonia, I know I have no reason to ask for your help, but I need advice. I've lost everything. Jake left town. Mom, well, you already know. For the first time in my life, I want to do something on my own, without relying on my family. Can I meet you? Sonia read the message and set her phone down. She didn't rush to reply. A year ago, Sophia had been one of the people who looked down on her, mocked her. But now, with everything crumbling, Sophia had finally seen the truth. Sonia gazed out of her office window, contemplating. She no longer needed revenge. She had already won. And sometimes, winning wasn't about watching others fall, it was about becoming someone they could no longer ignore. She picked up her phone and typed back, "Tomorrow at 9 a.m., come to my office." The difference between the strong and the weak. The next morning, Sophia stepped into Sonia's office. She was no longer the entitled, that privileged girl she used to be, and was now trying to stand on her own. She sat down, visibly uneasy, and said, "I used to think I was strong because I had everything. But when I lost it all, I realized I had nothing." Sonia remained silent, waiting for her to continue. "You left with nothing, yet within months you built an empire. I want to learn how to do that. I'm not asking for money, I just want a chance to start over." Sonia crossed her arms and raised an eyebrow. "And why should I trust you?" Sophia swallowed hard. "Because I see my mistakes now, and I know that if I don't change, I'll always be someone who depends on others." Sonia studied her for a long moment before finally nodding. "Fine, I'll help you. But I won't give you shortcuts. If you want a job, you start from the bottom." Sophia let out a breath of relief and smiled. "I'm ready." From being overlooked to unforgettable months later, Sonia stood on the stage of a prestigious business event, feeling the undeniable shift in her life. She stepped up to the podium, took a deep breath, and spoke. "For years, I worked tirelessly in the shadows. I thought that if I worked hard enough, if I gave enough of myself, I would be recognized. But I was wrong. I learned that no one will hand you the recognition you deserve. You have to stand up and take it for yourself. And today, I don't stand here to seek revenge. I stand here because I have discovered my true worth, and I will never allow anyone to make me invisible again." The room erupted in applause. In the audience, Lauren, Theo, and Sophia smiled, proud of how far Sonia had come. From a forgotten woman in her own home, she had become a name no one would ever forget again. Sonia's rise, from invisible to iconic success. 6 months later. Everything that had been taken from her, every achievement that had been stolen, she had reclaimed it all. And more. By now, Dunn Consulting no longer existed. Jake's company was officially bankrupt. Emerson, who once saw Sonia as worthless, now faced financial fraud charges. But Sonia didn't waste time thinking about them. She was too busy running the empire she had built, a company expanding into international markets, attracting the very clients Jake once dreamed of landing. Her phone buzzed. A message from Lauren. "Congratulations, the investment board just approved our global expansion plan. We're now officially one of the top consulting firms." Sonia smiled softly. She hadn't just moved past Dunn Consulting, she had left them far behind. The final confrontation. As Sonia prepared for a press conference, Lauren walked into her office, hesitant. "Jake is downstairs, he wants to see you." Sonia was silent for a moment before nodding. "Give him 5 minutes." When Jake walked into the meeting room, he looked exhausted, worn down, a man who had lost everything. "Sonia, I just want to talk." She crossed her arms. "Talk about what? About how you and your family underestimated me for 7 years? Or about how your company fell apart the moment I left?" Jake lowered his head. "I was wrong. I see that now. If I could go back, I would do everything differently." Sonia let out a quiet laugh. "But you can't go back, can you?" Jake took a deep breath. "I just want to know, is there any chance to fix this?" Sonia shook her head. "No, the only thing left for you to do is accept that you lost everything, on your own." Jake was silent. He knew that nothing he said could change things. But at least now he had his answer. Before he left, he murmured, "Congratulations, Sonia. You deserve everything you've achieved." Lessons from Sonia's story: the power of self-worth. The most important lesson from this story is simple. Never let others define your worth. Whether in family, work, or social relationships, you deserve to be seen, valued, and respected. You don't have to stay in an environment that makes you invisible. For those who reach a certain age and feel like they are no longer as important as they once were, and it is never too late to rebuild your life and create something meaningful for yourself.